This is the step that most beginner crochet tutorials skip or only spend about 30 seconds on. And honestly, I think it's the #1 reason beginners give up so early. If your hand cramps after 10 minutes, if your tension is all over the place, if crocheting just feels awkward and uncomfortable, it's almost always this: how you hold your hook and how you hold your yarn. So, let's get this right. There are 2 main ways to hold a crochet hook, and neither one is wrong. It all comes down to what feels most natural to you. The first is called the pencil grip. You hold the hook just like a pencil between your thumb and index finger, with the hook pointing down and slightly toward you. A lot of beginners naturally gravitate toward this. The second is the knife grip. You hold it like a dinner knife, with your hand over the top and your thumb resting on the flat part of the handle. This grip gives you a bit more control for longer sessions and usually puts less strain on your wrist. Here is my advice. Try both grips right now. Just hold the hook both ways and wiggle it around a bit. One of them will immediately feel more natural. Go with that one. You can always switch later, but don't stress over choosing the right way. There isn't one. For both grips, there's one golden rule. Your thumb and index finger should be resting close to the throat of the hook. That's the tapered, curved part. Not way up on the handle, not right on the tip, but right there in the middle. This gives you control without having to squeeze too hard. I need to talk about the death grip, and if you're a beginner, chances are you're doing this right now without even realizing it. The death grip is when you hold the hook so tightly your knuckles turn white. It happens because the motion feels unfamiliar, and your brain tells your hand to hold on for dear life. The problem is, gripping too tight causes hand cramps, slows you down, and actually makes it harder to work into your stitches because everything is pulled too tight. While you're learning, just pause every few minutes and check your hand. Is it tense? Stretch your fingers, shake it out, and pick the hook back up with a softer grip. It's a habit, and like any habit, it takes a few tries to break. Be patient with yourself. It gets easier very quickly. Now, let's talk about your yarn hand. This is your non-dominant hand, and honestly, for most people, this is the hardest part. Its job is to feed the yarn to the hook at a steady pace. That steady pace is called tension, and tension is everything in crochet. Let me show you a great, basic way to hold your yarn. It's very popular and perfect for beginners. Take the yarn coming from your skein and drape it over your index finger. Now, just weave it like a snake through the rest of your fingers, under your middle finger, over your ring finger, and under your pinky, so the yarn weaves through all the fingers of your hand. In this position, your MVP is your index finger. It lifts up slightly to feed yarn to the hook when you need it, and lowers to pull the yarn slightly taut. Your other fingers just gently hold the yarn between them, keeping it from slipping away too fast. At first, it might feel like your fingers have a mind of their own, and you need a third hand to crochet. Trust me, that is completely normal. Very soon, these motions will become automatic. But let me say right away, there is no strict rule here. There are other awesome ways to tension your yarn. Some people only use their index finger and pinky. They drape it over the index finger, wrap it around the pinky, and let the middle and ring fingers just relax. Some people weave it through all their fingers like we just did, but wrap it around their pinky an extra time for a bit more tension. And some people just wrap it twice around their index finger and call it a day. I'm showing you the weaving method because it's often the easiest for beginners to grasp. But remember, your goal isn't to copy my hand exactly. The goal is to find even tension. The yarn should glide smoothly, not too loose, not too tight. If you have to forcefully yank the yarn with your hook, you're pinching it too tightly. If your loops look floppy, saggy, and uneven, your tension is too loose. Try my method, and if it still feels awkward after a few practice sessions, try the others. You will definitely find your sweet spot where the yarn just flows beautifully through your fingers. All right, now we're going to put this all together with your first real crochet technique, the slip knot. Take your yarn and leave a little bit of a tail. With the working yarn, that's the yarn attached to the skein, make a loop. Pull the working yarn from behind and through that loop, creating a second loop. Pull that second loop up and slide it onto your hook. Now, gently tug on the tail end and the working yarn to tighten the knot. Not too tight, just snug. You should be able to slide it up and down the hook easily. That's your slip knot. Make a few of these, pull them apart, and do it again. Seriously, do it 5 times right now. By the 3rd or 4th time, it should start feeling natural. And while you do it, pay attention to the position of your hands. Hook in your dominant hand, yarn in your non-dominant hand, tension finger up and ready. You will be in this exact position for every single stitch you ever make. Almost every crochet project starts with a row of chain stitches. It's called a starting chain or foundation chain, and it acts exactly like the bottom edge of your fabric. Every stitch after this is built on top of it. If you get your chain right, everything else is easier. If you rush it, you'll be fighting your project from the very beginning. Chaining is also the simplest stitch in crochet. It's just one repeating motion, so it's the absolute best place to start building muscle memory in your hands. Grab your hook and yarn. Make a slip knot like we just practiced and put it on your hook. Snug it up, but not too tight. You should be able to slide it on the hook without worrying about it popping off. Now, get into position, hook in your dominant hand, yarn tensioned over the index finger of your other hand. Take a breath, we're ready. Before we start, the slip knot is your starting point, but it does not count as a chain stitch. I'll explain why that matters in a few minutes when we talk about counting stitches. Just keep it in mind. Here's how to make a chain stitch. It's just 2 words: yarn over, pull through. Yarn over means you bring your hook under the working yarn, the yarn coming from the skein, and catch it so it rests in the throat of the hook. Then, you pull that yarn through the loop that's already on your hook. That's it. 1 chain stitch. Yarn over, pull through. That's all there is to it. Let's do it together slowly. Hook in position, yarn tensioned. Rotate the hook toward the yarn, catch it, that's your yarn over. Now pull it through the loop on your hook. You just made a chain stitch. Do it again. Yarn over, pull through, and again, yarn over, pull through. As you make more chains, use your thumb and middle finger to pinch the chain right below the hook. Move them up every few stitches. This gives you stability and control. Most beginners forget to do this and end up wrestling with a floppy chain. Pinch, chain, move up, continue. Try to make about 15 to 20 chains right now without stopping. Don't worry about perfection, just feel the rhythm. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. Okay, pause and look at your chain. Hold it up and gently stretch it out. What you're looking for is consistency. The loops don't have to be flawless, but ideally, they should be roughly the same size. If some look massive and some look tiny, that's a tension issue, and at this stage, it is completely normal. Here are the 2 most common problems. First, the chains are too tight. This means you're either gripping the hook too hard, or your yarn hand isn't letting go of the yarn enough. The chain will feel stiff, and it's going to be really hard to push your hook back through those loops later. If this is you, consciously loosen your grip and let your index finger relax a bit. Second, the chains are too loose and sloppy. This usually means there isn't enough tension in your yarn hand. Try wrapping the yarn around your index finger one more time, or let your pinky do a little more work holding the yarn. Here's the truth about tension. It takes time. Your hands are literally still learning how to hold the yarn. Every beginner I've ever seen has uneven tension on their first chain. It evens out naturally with practice. You don't need to unravel every single stitch and redo it right now. Just keep going and let your hands learn. Now let's count. This is where I see beginners make mistakes over and over. And it's not their fault, because most tutorials don't explain it clearly enough. Look at your chain. The front side looks like a row of little V shapes. Every V is 1 chain stitch. That is what you count. The V's. Here is the rule that trips everyone up. You do not count the loop currently on your hook. That loop is active, it's waiting to become the next stitch. And you do not count the slip knot at the bottom. So, if a pattern says chain 10, you make 10 V shapes. The loop on the hook doesn't count. The slip knot doesn't count. Just the V's. Let me show you on my chain. I'll point to each stitch as I count. 1, 2, 3. See how I'm only counting the V-shapes and skipping the loop on my hook? That's exactly what you need to do. Practice this. Make a chain of exactly 10 stitches. Count as you go out loud if it helps. Then hold the chain up and count it again from the bottom up. Did you get 10? If yes, great. If no, try again. Counting your stitches correctly is a foundational skill, and every pattern you'll ever use depends on it. Here's something that gets left out of a lot of beginner videos, but I want you to know it from day one. Flip your chain over and look at the back. See this row of bumps running right down the middle? That's called the back bump, or the back bar. When you start crocheting your first row of stitches into the chain, you have a choice. You can work into the V-shapes on the front or into these bumps on the back. For now, most beginner patterns will have you work into the V-shapes on the front, and that's exactly what we'll do in the next video. But when you see a pattern that says work into the back bump or work into the back bar, now you know exactly what that means and where to find it. Little things like this make reading patterns so much easier later on. Before we wrap up, let's talk about unraveling your yarn, because you are going to need this. If you made a mistake somewhere in your chain, or your tension got really messy, just take your hook out of the loop and gently pull the working yarn. The chain will unravel one stitch at a time. Stop when you get far enough back, pop your hook back into that last live loop, and keep going. Don't be afraid to unravel. Yarn is forgiving. Unraveling your work isn't failing, it's literally just part of crocheting. Even people who have been crocheting for years unravel their work on a regular basis. Oh, and in the crochet community, unraveling your work is called frogging. It's called that because you rip it, which sounds like a frog. You'll hear that word a lot. I want to be real with you. The first few times you crochet, your hands are going to feel awkward, maybe even a little sore. It's not because you're doing something wrong, it's because you're asking your hands to do something entirely new. Think about the first time you drove a car, or learned to type, or used chopsticks. It felt unnatural, and then one day, it just didn't anymore. Crochet is exactly the same. If your hand starts hurting, put it down. Take a break. Short practice sessions, even just 10 or 15 minutes, are way more effective than one long, frustrating hour. Your hands are learning too. Most people hit a point around day 3 or 4 where something just clicks. The hook sits comfortably, the yarn starts flowing, and crochet stops feeling like a puzzle. I want you to reach that point, and you will. Homework time. Make 5 chains of exactly 15 stitches each. Count every stitch twice, once as you go and once at the end. Focus on keeping your tension as even as possible. Take your time. In the next video, we're going to use this chain and make your very first real stitch the single crochet. That's when crocheting starts to feel real. It is so much fun. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in video 2.